Hammer blow at West Ham. The subject of Mickey Antonio has come up today because, unfortunately, he has, I believe, suffered a bit of an injury setback. Now, he's been sidelined for a while. He had a medial knee ligament damage while playing for Jamaica in Canada back in November, and he was expected to play some maybe part of the FA Cup tie against Bristol City tomorrow. However, reports today are suggesting that he has suffered a bit of a setback between potentially up to 2 to 3 weeks because he slipped in training at the Rush Green base. It does coincide with the Premier League winter break, which means Antonio won't miss too much action as West Ham next play a Premier League fixture against Sheffield United on January the 21st. Progress in the FA Cup against the Bristol City would mean a fourth round tie scheduled for the last weekend of the month. And not having Antonio fit for the month of January, considering that we have lost kudos to the AFCON, is not the best of circumstances for West Ham. Now, hear me out when it comes to Antonio here for a second, because I understand that the large amount of the fan base were disappointed that he's still at the club. I think people respect him, but I don't think we should rely on him. And we have seemed to have found a way of playing without Antonio. That's largely because of Jared Bowen's effectiveness in the centre forward position, scoring 13 goals this season. But prior to his injury, Antonio had been Moyes' first choice striker for Premier League games, being rotated out of the team for the Europa League games. He had scored twice and given 2 assists for West Ham prior to his injury. And Antonio himself did say he was close to his comeback in his tweet on New Year's Eve. He said, "Got me on the Captain America program, Beast Mode 2.0 loading for the start of 2024. Now, having an Antonio coming off the bench is exactly where I believe Antonio fits within our system. Now, I think having Antonio stay at West Ham long term is not necessarily a bad thing. Becoming reliant on him is where the issue for me stands, being the first name on the team sheet, because we found a new dynamic way to play without being reliant on Antonio. However, if you have an Antonio on the bench and he comes off the bench, what an impact substitution you've got there, because he does do the job of what David Moyes asks. He works the lines, he challenges defenses. He's not your natural born goal scorer, but he will bang in a couple of goals. So if you've got that option coming off the bench, then that can frighten defenses, especially if you're playing 70 minutes and you need a bit of vavavoom at the top. What do? You put on beast mode and he goes at defenses. And that's probably where he'll get the best out of it. It's just whether or not you see or he sees a future of being the bit part player for West Ham, because people can go on and make massive careers, especially at the tail end of their careers, by being that sort of player. Now, having Antonio at West Ham and potentially being fit whilst we lose Kudus and have to change up the way we're playing would have been a bit of a blessing in disguise. But we're coming into the January transfer window. We're open now and we're open for business. And we're unsure as to whether or not West Ham will go into the market and buy another player. And the chances of us going into the market and buying another player with a fit Antonio may have been slim. However, this situation may have changed it, because he will have to play some games. There's probably going to be no guarantees. They're going to have to probably check in and see what his actual injury is and how detrimental that will be. He has come back from his hamstring injuries and, been in fine form in terms of not picking up knocks, not getting hamstring injuries, you name it, etc., etc. But the thing for me is that if we can utilize Antonio rather than relying on Antonio, that's where I think West Ham should be with this situation. It's a bit of a hammer blow because we need to have as many players fighting fit. I think he would have been a massive asset, especially during this time when we don't have some of our valuable, creative, informed players like Kudus, who is a massive loss over the January windows. So let's just hope that you know, we don't feel that impact when we come to play Sheffield United. You know, that game itself is not taking place for a couple of weeks. We've got a few more weeks of the transfer window left, plenty of time left to do business if we need to do it. And I'm assuming they'll assess the situation with Antonio coming ahead for the next few weeks. But the Bristol City game, you know, has come too early for him. Again, like I said, picking up his injury. So I assume we'll probably see a little bit of Divine Mubama at home. And with news today that West Ham have sold out their allocation to the London Stadium, is a massive statement of intent from the fans. So we're looking for a bit of a performance from the players to pay back the fans. But again, Bristol City have sold out their allocation. Their away allocation are going to be loud and proud to be Bristol City fans at the West Ham Stadium, London Stadium. So we'll see. But a bit of a hammer blow for West Ham, a bit of a hammer blow for Antonio. I know there's going to be people in the chat saying to me, the quicker we get rid of Antonio, the better. I understand your point of view. But when we are struggling and the likes we've all got Danny Ings, I think you would all agree that you would rather play Antonio over a Danny Ings. No disrespect to you, Danny Ings, but that's exactly where I feel he is in the list of strikers that we do have. So let's hope it's not as bad. Let's hope he's fighting fit. I don't think he's going to go this January transfer window, especially now with his injury. And I think that we're going to be seeing some more minutes coming from this man in a West Ham shirt. Put your comments in. Let me know your thoughts. And we'll be back for more West Ham content. Come on, your